And welcome back to the Morning Drill. Joining us this morning, we have some wonderful ladies from Byham's Insurance. Good morning, ladies. How are you today?
Good morning.
Let's start by having you introduce yourselves. We'll start with Krista.
I'm Krista Ebert, and I work in the new Titusville location.
Good morning.
I'm Angie Niedermeyer, and I work in the Meadville office.
Hello.
And I'm Carolyn Hall, also work in the Meadville office.
Great to have you guys in this morning.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You guys have been very busy. Before we get into the added location, let's talk about Byham's Insurance and get a history and sort of the background. It opened up in Meadville.
Yep, over 50 years ago. 1963, I believe.
Correct.
But you guys weren't there then.
No. I've been there 13 years.
I've been there 14 years, since 2001. Yep.
And Krista, you've been in insurance for?
About 12 years total, but I've just been with Byham since middle of November.
And that's when they opened up
Yep.
the location here in Titusville. Actually, it hasn't been open that long, and but it's been busy. It's been busy. We're going to talk.
Things are going well.
Alrighty, let's talk about what folks can expect when they go into Byham's or when they make a phone call and start the conversation with you guys.
Really depends on what they're looking for. My area of expertise is individual plans as well as employer-sponsored plans. And then if they're looking for Medicare in our Meadville location, Angie would be able to help them out.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, we're talking about things that people just sort of throw their hands up in the air today when it comes to insurance, because who knows what's going on. Government says this, the state says this. That's a lot to try to maneuver through. I mean, how do you do that? Where do you even start?
You know, I don't know how people attempt to do it on their own. I don't think people realize that we're a resource that they can go to that can take the confusion and the anxiety out of looking for health insurance, and it doesn't cost them any more as though they were doing it on their own. We don't charge fees for our service, so I really don't know how people manage and muddle through that on their own when we have the resource center that'd be able to help them out.
So really, to avoid all the headaches and the mess and the time, it's a lot easier to schedule an appointment and sit down and get that experience and just not have to worry about it.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the individual first, or the families. How much time is needed to go into the planning stages for that? I mean, if you think about it, and you hear people spending hours and hours online trying to navigate through things.
Right. Once a family has an idea of what their household income is going to be, we can maneuver through that site or even directly through the carrier, depending on what their real needs are, in about an hour.
Oh, wow. So they'll know right away pretty much what they're looking at in terms of what they get for their coverage, what they're going to have to spend a month. Do you think people are surprised by not only the friendly atmosphere, but just that one-on-one time where they can actually say, what happens if we were to do this or take this away?
I think they are very surprised. I receive numerous hugs at the end of sessions. Thank you letters of appreciation. If you attempt to do it on your own, you realize how overwhelming it is, and we really simplify it. We've been doing it. We have combined experience of over 35 years here, sitting here. Mm-hmm. We really simplify it for you. And we take the entire year to learn the carrier's products, go to their meetings, understand where their uniqueness is in the marketplace, and relay that onto our client.
Angie, how much changes every year?
A ton changes every year. On the Medicare end of things, the drug plan specifically changes quite a bit. They change deductibles, co-pays. Their plans change just about every year, which is confusing and overwhelming. Advantage plans, same thing. They change every year as well. So it's a lot for the client to keep up on, and it's a lot for us to keep up on, because we have to understand every carrier and every change within the carriers to know how to shift them around. But
it seems like every political season you'll hear somebody's taking away this, or somebody's going to take away that, or we're going to give you this or give you that. And maybe that's tailored to older Pennsylvanians, maybe. But at what age should folks start to pay attention to, the Medicaid and Medicare and all the Medi products out there?
Typically, I think people, they want to do it as early as possible. And my rule of thumb is, you don't want to do it too early because it's so confusing. It's not something that they know firsthand. So if somebody comes in 6 months before they're going to turn 65, we have to do it again because I'm going to educate them on something that they've really know nothing about, and then they're going to leave and they're going to need to be educated on it again. So really, I'd say a month or two before the effective date gives me enough time to educate them on what their plan choices are and then get things moving, because the way to know it is to use the insurance. So I think that's what's best.
And you probably get people in the past who, hey, in 5 years this will hit me, so let's talk about it. And then they come back and it's completely different.
Yes. Oh, it changes every year. So when somebody wants to come in 5 years early, I know I don't want to push them away, but I don't want them to feel like they need to come in that early. Right. It's not necessary.
Or, hey, you said this.
That's exactly right.
Hey, that's great, but all of this has happened since then.
Yeah.
Krista, how important is it to have a good relationship with the clients? And I mean, when you're talking about insurance, you're talking about things that really not only hit the family financially, but you're talking about the health of a family. So it's got to be important to maintain a good relationship with your clients.
Well, we want them to think of us as specialists. I mean, we want them to feel comfortable coming to our office and, answering the smallest questions. I mean, a lot of people will call and say, I know this is a dumb question, but no question is a dumb question. We want them to feel comfortable by, coming to us, and we would like them to refer us to their friends and relatives. So it's very important that we, have it. And we're local people. And we serve a lot in the community on volunteer boards and things, so, we would like them to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of questions do you get from individuals or families?
Probably the biggest question I get after I help somebody out was, how much do I owe you?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest misconception out there, is that our agency charges fees for services, and we do not. In the state of Pennsylvania, the premiums have a built-in commission, whether or not you go to a brokerage service or not. So if you're muddling through it on your own because you think you're saving yourself a few dollars, you're really not. Yeah.
So it's really important then to sit down and actually talk to people who know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
You hear in the car business, people say, well, I want, here's my budget. It's easier for the salesperson to get to what they can spend in a month. Is that the same for insurance? Is it easy, or do you go by, well, do you need dental? Do you need, how does that work when planning, and how important is it for that final piece to be what somebody can afford in a month?
Well, obviously the budget is an important aspect of anyone's situation. However, we really drill down. Tell me what your medical needs are. Are you anticipating any surgeries? Obviously, there are some situations you don't anticipate, which is why you have insurance. Tell me what your prescriptions are so we can drill down and let you know exactly how much your copays are going to be on those prescriptions. So you're not surprised when you go to the pharmacy and you have a $45 copay that you weren't expecting as part of your budget. So we really drill down, and when the client leaves, they have a very good understanding of what their monthly premium is going to be and what the benefit and what their monthly out-of-pocket costs are going to be.
And again, going back to what you hear in the news, but do you guys experience where you're working with somebody and they can't qualify for something because they're battling cancer, or they have something else going on that they've been struggling with? It's already been out there. Maybe they've been denied elsewhere. Is that happening here locally?
No. On the individual end of things, the Affordable Care Act does not have any pre-existing condition clauses any longer. That's part of the Affordable Care Act plan. So those circumstances don't come into play. Basically, the rates are generated based on the individual's age and whether or not they're a tobacco user. All the plans are guaranteed issue beyond that.
Wow. And we've heard that. We've had people come in from smoking cessation classes saying, this really, not only are you talking about your health, but these other things that can be, that can hurt you if you smoke.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Angie, talk a little bit about your day-to-day job and what you do.
Basically, I take calls from clients, current clients, if they have an issue, like a claim doesn't process correctly, if they get a bill. They go to the pharmacy, a prescription's not filled the way they thought it should be filled. I have a pretty good understanding of most of the plans, so I can usually troubleshoot that pretty quickly. A lot of times it takes me calling the insurance company to find out, what happened with the claim. Keeping the client calm, because they always call pretty rattled. That's first and foremost.
I just took my last pill.
Yeah. Insulin's a big one. Everybody needs insulin, and they go get their insulin like the last minute. So it's a big job. I'm a home, I get a call, somebody needs insulin.
Wow.
So we got to call the carrier and make sure they get their insulin. So just troubleshooting, that's current clients. And then the flip side of that is, somebody who might be new to Medicare or losing insurance, I would sit down with them, assess what they would need, and then find them the appropriate plan.
So if somebody was doing this on their own and they ran into these issues, it would be them trying to find a phone number to call somebody to track something down to get their, medication?
If they did it on their own, yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Why would you do that then?
I just don't think sometimes people realize that we do that.
Yeah.
I don't think they understand that that's what we specialize in.
Or they think we charge for our services, which, we do not.
Yep. They'll investigate the policy. They'll come talk to me. Then they'll leave investigate. And they're like, it's the same price if I get it on my own. Yeah. You're right.
Well, then it's good to see those people smiling when they leave.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing that they've been helped. And
yeah, like Carolyn said, lots of hugs.
Yeah. And do you get a lot of people who said, well, listen, for the last, couple of years I've been trying to do this on my own. Mm-hmm. Now I have help.
Yeah. Or they're paying too much for something that, there was something the same exact coverage, a lot cheaper. We shopped around for them to find it.
Wow.
Or they bought it on their own last year and realized it wasn't exactly what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
So, Krista, then it sounds like if I came to you and maybe I spent some time trying to pick what I thought was best, and I'm paying a lot of money or I'm getting things that I'm never going to use, it sounds like I could come to you guys and you would be able to look at it and say, hey, well, you don't really need this. You don't need this. You need this. Increase this.
Yep.
Yeah, we would just evaluate, have you come in and just kind of ask you, like Carolyn had said, what prescriptions do you take? Do you have any chronic, just to know if you use it all the time, whether you want to pay the co-pays or not. Just, that's what we're here for, is to solve your problems.
This would be probably a pretty important decision in your life. So to be able to sit down and get that expertise is extremely important. How often should somebody follow up with you guys? Or are you contacting them to say, hey, guess what? This has changed, or this policy has changed?
I personally send out a letter every year, just kind of flagging different changes, and I send them a sheet for them to fill out to tell me some changes that might have happened, so I can sit, in the wee hours of the night and go through some of those changes and then call them on my own and then maybe suggest some changes. So we do reach out to them, but they are calling.
Yeah.
Once they realize we'll help, they'll call.
Do you ever get phone calls because somebody saw something on the news or they read something and they think something's going to happen with their coverage?
Yes,
Yeah, all the
definitely.
time.
Every day.
Every day.
Just about. Yeah.
Is that good for business or?
No, it is good. Anytime they reach out to us, any contact.
Well, it means
is
they're
good.
concerned.
Yeah.
Right.
And they trust us to solve their problems, so it's a good thing.
All right, so you have locations in Meadville, Titusville, Erie. You cover everywhere in between?
Yeah. We even get down in the Mercer County. We don't have an actual physical location down there, but we have a lot of clients in the Mercer County area.
Wow. So you guys are on the road quite a bit.
We can be.
Yeah, we
You
can.
be. What's the best way for somebody to get started? Is it to call the office and schedule an appointment? Is it stopping in and saying hi and scheduling an appointment? A little bit of both?
Either way, but calling the office. That way, when they do come in, we can let them know what they would want to bring with them or have in mind when they come in, so they're prepared.
Okay, so that's an individual or family. Let's talk about the business, because you're hearing all sorts of things in the news with businesses and companies with this amount of employees are eligible for this or they're not, or what is going on. How do you even navigate through that?
A lot of training. We go to a lot of carrier meetings throughout the year to keep up to date, because as soon as something's in place, it changes. And businesses, group coverage is a tough situation. We have a lot of renewals now on non-compliant ACA plans that have been allowed by the federal government, which is good for a lot of our local companies. As we roll into ACA compliant plans, I fear for some sticker shock for some of those employer groups. As far as for businesses and their compliance paperwork, we walk them through it. We provide each business with all of their compliance paperwork to disperse to their employees on an annual basis. We customize it for our clients, so it's literally a forward of the email or print out and hand out type situation.
We live in a pretty conservative area, so with all the talk about the Affordable Care Act, there's a lot of opinion with that. From your standpoint, it sounds like there's some good things, there's some things that might need fixed. What's your take on that?
Well, on the individual end of things, the removal of the pre-existing condition clause, as you mentioned, is very helpful to individuals who have certain chronic conditions or even non-chronic conditions were an issue before. So that's been beneficial. The Supreme Court last week heard arguments on the individual subsidies and whether or not they're going to be allowed in federal exchanges, such as the state of Pennsylvania, going forward. That ruling's coming out in June. That will tell us a lot more of what's going to happen going forward into 2016. Because the premiums on these individual plans are pretty high, and a lot of people are getting help with these subsidies.
Yeah.
If that subsidy goes away, it's going to be problematic.
We had Rick Shrouden, who works for H&R Block, and when filing your taxes, you need to show that you have your insurance. Is that something that you guys also handle when it comes to the tax season? Do you help individuals or companies print out what they need to take to?
Actually, the carriers
Okay.
print out verifications, because even though we provide the policies to them, we don't always know that they paid their monthly premium and maintain it throughout the year. So that does fall to the insurance carriers to provide verification to that individual for how many months out of the year they maintain coverage.
So if they didn't receive that information, is that something they ask you to help them with, or
Yep,
would
we
they?
can contact the carrier for them. And
Oh,
help
Angie's
get it.
like, yeah.
Just yesterday.
Just
I didn't even do
yesterday.
that, and yesterday I got that call. Yeah.
Very nice.
That's another
Yeah.
call.
So it sounds like with businesses, it's a lot more encompassing.
It definitely is. There are some specific numbers of employees that generate different types of policies for businesses, and it depends on the number of full-time equivalents your business carries. So it's very difficult to be detailed on what each business needs to do without having that business in front of you and knowing the specifics.
Now, knowing Jeff, he's doing all this expansion, and he's got 16,000 people that work at Byham.
13, but yeah.
He's got to negotiate.
You're close.
Yeah, he's got to negotiate those policies for you guys. So there's
Correct.
just.
Yeah.
Krista, talk about transitioning into the Byham family here, because honestly, it seems like that's what it is with you guys, and I've shot commercials, and I know Frank very well, and Jeff, and great guys, wonderful people in the community, very dedicated to not just Meadville, but to Crawford County and Northwest Pennsylvania. So what's it like for you to transition into this family?
It was good. It was a good move for me. I had come from mostly a property casualty background with just, I did health insurance on the side, not as much as I did.
Okay, not because you were in accidents all the time.
No.
Just want to clear that up.
Yep. So coming there, they're more of specialists in the healthcare field, which I wasn't. I was more of a specialist in the property casualty side. So, it's been lots of training for me, lots of learning new things, sitting with these guys just to get a feel for what they do, and it's been great. I enjoy every minute of it.
So you have some expertise that you sort of bring in, but you're also picking up a lot.
Yeah. There's a lot I was never trained for or did not know. Or, I learned something new every day that I was unaware of that was out there. Or we have more companies that I was, that I have ever, I was ever licensed with before. It's been a great transition, but it's been a learning experience too.
It has to be exciting and challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be part of the fun coming into work every day is just the challenge of, it seems like every day's different.
Sure, it is.
Every day is different.
It is.
And you guys have suitcases packed, so when the boss comes in and says, hey, we got training over here, see ya.
But it's been a good experience for me.
Well, and I know you have to go to the trainings and you have to keep up with things, but I think there's also something special about somebody who's very active and engages you guys to say, hey, this is coming up, the seminar, we should be there to pick up information or to learn more about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Or to know what's going on in the world or here in the state.
Yeah, we definitely know we're going to get the questions, so we try to make sure we're everywhere to get the answer. So when they call, because we know they're calling.
And what happens if somebody asks you a question, maybe you just don't know right away? I mean, what's the turnaround time for something like that?
I think we're all very good about, even though we have a lot of years of experience, we're all very good about identifying that and saying, hey, I don't know the answer to that. Let me call the carrier, or let me find out for you and get back to you.
Talk about the others in the office and their roles and how important it is and how everybody works together.
Oh.
Well, they're very important because we're typically meeting with clients or on the phone, getting questions answered. So they're, kind of in the background doing the stuff that we can't, like answer the phones, set the appointments, researching different things. They're very valuable.
Our support staff is amazing. I think they're second to none. We have specific, and just like we're specific in our sales areas, they're specific in their area. We have an individual in the office that troubleshoots claims all day long. Her name's Dolores. She is amazing. She has no problems in picking up the phone, contacting a carrier, and finding out why a claim wasn't paid, and if it should have been paid, contacting the provider, having appropriate codes, and getting it paid.
Wow. That's something, we haven't really discussed a whole lot, is that happens, what?
A lot.
Every minute.
Oh, yeah.
Every minute.
Claims.
I think
big claims.
20% of claims are not filed correctly.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that comes from the doctor's office?
It can. There are some situations where some of the information is not fed through the provider, such as if you have a surgery, maybe the anesthesiologist doesn't have the proper coding information from the hospital. That's kind of a common claim that kicks out. So it's a combination of situations of why claims kick out.
There's been a lot in the news involving local hospitals, especially Titusville. Meadville's been growing. All the hospitals in Erie. So you guys are, you have to be in touch with everybody and kind of knowing what's going on, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. And Dolores is very good about that, of knowing who to call for whichever facility that individual used.
Yeah.
Going back to some of the business calls that you get or the clients that you deal with, what are some typical questions that companies have for you guys?
The typical question that we receive from clients is, my premiums seem too high. We can research the market, look at competitors, and see whether or not their premiums are in line. The other questions that we have are, what direction are people going with group coverage? And with group coverage, I think we're going to probably be leaning towards HSA or health savings account compliant plans in the future to help control some of that premium cost for employers.
And then does that conversation also include retirement policies and what folks should be expecting?
It can for larger employers. Most smaller employers aren't able to provide a retirement package to their employees, not because they don't want to,
right,
but because the carriers won't allow them to. But when you get into an employer group with more than 50 employees, that's definitely an avenue that we can help them out with as well.
All right. So let's sort of recap here. Why should I come to Byham for my insurance?
Well, because it doesn't cost you anything.
And we're here to help make it easier, make the transition easier.
How about the experience, Krista? Talk about that again.
Well, it's just, we want, like I said, to reiterate the fact that, we want them to come back to us. We want them to feel comfortable. We want them to have a good experience when they first sign up or first come in. We want them to not to go elsewhere. We want them to stay with us. So we try to, the service is, great. Absolutely wonderful. And we are specialists in our field. That's all we do. So, that makes a big difference. And we keep up with all the new carriers, all the new changes. So, we do want to provide the best policy, for their individual needs.
I'm just going to say it just sounds like a mess. It's got to be a headache to have to deal with that. And anybody who does it alone, I don't understand why you would do that. Call and sit down with the professionals who can help you. Give us the contact information for Meadville first and then Titusville.
Our Meadville location, the telephone number contact is area code 814-724-1680.
And the Titusville number is 814-775-0507.
Okay. And you guys are located along?
We're right on Park Avenue.
Okay.
The big milestones are, I tell folks, in between McDonald's and Taco Bell on the same side of the
There
road.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Krista?
And we're in the, the address is 150 West Central Avenue, and we're in what I always tell people, in the old WTIB building.
Okay. Very good. Ladies, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Please come back and update us with
Will do.
anything that's changing, which sounds like is happening constantly. But also let us know too what's going on. What should people be paying attention to as they are trying to figure out their insurance?
Definitely the Supreme Court ruling on the subsidies that's going to be handed down in June. I know that's going to generate a lot of phone calls to the office, which is good.
Conversation's always good,
Correct.
and when you're dealing with the pros, it's a lot better, isn't it? Well, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty,
Thank
this
you,
is the
Luke.
Morning Drill on Stream Television and the Allegheny News Talk Sports Network.
My discotheque